wanted to just give you a sense of the number of young people throughout the state of Florida who are using the homeless waivers at both the state university system and the Florida college system. So these are 2019, 2020 numbers, and you can see the percentages and also the number of students.
Steve, you're not sharing yet.
Well, so you can't see anything. Okay. How about now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you can see the Florida University system has homeless waivers at most of their institutions. Now, there are some institutions which have fewer than 10, and for that reason, we don't have those numbers. And for those that maybe don't have any, or we don't have that information, obviously they're not included here either. If these numbers, because I know we have a good number of representatives with us today, if these numbers don't look right to you, please, reach out to your institutional research folks to ask them about these numbers, because these are the numbers that are provided to the State University System BOG Data Department. And the information from the Florida Department of Education, Florida College System is a little older. I've included it so that we can get a sense of the percentages. So because percentages don't change that much. However, I wouldn't be surprised if the number of students has decreased because of COVID. And that's something really important I hope that we can address today somehow. But please look at these numbers and you'll get a sense of those students using homeless tuition exemptions throughout the Florida college system. Okay. All right, so that's it. Now, please take it away, Brett.
Well, thank you, Steve. I mean, what's encouraging to me looking at those pie charts is that clearly all across the state, students are utilizing the homeless tuition exemption. So I would be interested to understand what other geographic locations have done to get access, make sure students have access to these tuition exemptions. Steve, is there a PowerPoint that you can share on your screen? Right now it's.
Sure, I can put
nothing's going.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There.
Okay, perfect. So today I want to introduce Roxana and Deandra. They are members of the Youth Voice Action Council, which is a part of a collective impact group in Miami-Dade County called HOMIE, helping our Miami-Dade youth. And this is directly affiliated with the Miami-Dade Homeless Trust, which is our continuum of care connection to HUD and all of the federal funding around housing issues. I hear that Adonis is joining, so hopefully when he does join, he can pitch in. But what I wanted to do, we have Roxana, who has been a leader in this space and also has lived experience and has utilized the tuition exemption to go to Florida International University. We have Deandra, who is soon to be graduating from Miami-Dade College, and I think transferring to FIU. And so she has experience utilizing the tuition exemption at Miami-Dade College. And then we have Adonis, who is at Florida Atlantic University and has had experience utilizing the tuition exemption. So what I wanted to do was just give each of them a couple of minutes to share whatever they want about themselves or the process, good, bad, or ugly, just to understand what their experience was and maybe stimulate some questions that some people might have about how youth might be able to access tuition exemptions at their institutions. So Roxana, are you available to go first and just tell us a little bit about your experience?
Sure. Thanks, Brett. Hi, everyone. This is my first Positive Pathways meeting where I talk at, so I'm a little nervous, but thank you for allowing me to, talk about my experience. So I'm 21. I'm a junior at FIU, and I'm a public administrations major. I first accessed the waiver October 2019. I had a really hard time accessing it, although I had been homeless for years and years, ever since I was 14. And I was staying at a shelter at the time for about 3 years, but I was in that transition from high school where they were like, okay, you're not an adult anymore, so you can go. And so they didn't have the current process where they have now, where if you're in Project Upstart in high school, you kind of like, it's a smoother transition. You can go right into FIU. They didn't have that at the time. So it was very difficult. I kind of like fell through the cracks. I was talking to different people, but none of them were talking together. And that was the problem. People were telling me different things. So I didn't get the waiver until something really bad happened to me, and I had a proof on paper by the police that I didn't have anywhere to go. So that was my biggest challenge, which is a challenge that a lot of students face. Because providers aren't working together, students fall through the cracks because people are telling them different things, and no one is directing them in a way where they can access it and actually go to college. Another issue was that the shelter and my social worker, they never informed me that I could go to college because I had been in the system for years. And they don't really encourage that I'm not sure about the foster care system if they are encouraging that, but at least in the homeless systems and shelters, they don't encourage that at all. It's kind of like you're in and then you're out. And then the second challenge that I faced was the fact that while I was in that transition, I was couch surfing. Although I had already been in the shelter, I had turned 18, they basically kicked me out, and I was couch surfing. And the terminology for the statute in Florida is that you need to either be on the street or be literally like living and basically like on the street. And so because I was staying with a friend here and there and then a friend somewhere else, I technically wasn't allowed to be certified. And that's another issue that students are facing now. I've met lots of students that are also not able to access it because of that terminology. And so now through the YVAC, I access the YVAC through Educate Tomorrow. I'm a scholar there. And through the YVAC, we've been able to partner up with Schoolhouse Connection, where we are trying to change the wording and the terminology for the statutes here in Florida so that more students are able to access it, because that's a huge barrier. And so what the waiver has done for me, it's given me more than just the opportunity to an education. It's allowed that then because then like the fees and the tuition is waived, my financial aid from FAFSA can cover my dorm, my housing. So, it's really been a life-changing experience. And I don't know if for that same reason that it's so life-changing, why people don't really I don't know if it's that they don't know or what it is, but I guess that's why it's so hard to get, because of how life-changing it is. But whatever the case may be, with so many barriers, it's kind of unfair when you spent most of your life, surviving and trying to overcome, all of the challenges in your life. It's unfair that, to be able to get an education or a safe place on campus, you have to go through even more hoops and barriers. So that's why, I came to talk about it. And I hope that with my experience, you guys are able to work together and be able to find ways to change how it is right now. And with that, and that's my time. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Roxana, thank you so much for sharing. I think, the mission here of this Positive Pathways Network is to be an informed, empathetic, professional network of people who care about this. And a lot of times I think people don't know. They don't know, even the professionals don't know. They weren't trained. They're not informed. Policies and practices within the universities and colleges can change. Legislation can change. And so it's really important for us to constantly be reiterating what we know, what we're experiencing, hearing from you, getting feedback. That's what this is all about. So I'm sure you've touched some people here today with your experience, and I will open it up for questions. But I think what I'd like to do first is hear from Deandra and Adonis, and then open it up for questions. But thank you so much, Roxana, for sharing. And I'm glad you're doing well in school now, and getting close to that senior year. So that's exciting. Deandra, are you available?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deandra Joseph. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a YVAC member and also a change maker for Miami-Dade College and a Educate Tomorrow student. I first became homeless in the summer of 2018. Within that year, I just wanted to go to school. I was like, since I'm homeless, I'm gonna just still try to get an education and go to Miami-Dade College. And from there on, I didn't have certain documentation that I needed for admission at Miami-Dade College. And I told them my situation where, I was homeless. I don't have no home. I'm living in the streets. So they referred me to Educate Tomorrow, where I met Sandra Obas, and she, basically helped me, where she helped me to get the tuition exemption, homeless waiver for Miami-Dade College. I got accepted from there on, and she even taught me about housing opportunities, Casa Valentina, and I got accepted as Casa Valentina and started living there and started learning about life skills and budgeting. And also Miss Sandra taught me how to do my own FAFSA the correct way and make sure that, if I need any more information, she'll let me know. And from there on, with the tuition exemption, I save money. I use it for emergency funds or anything else that I needed. That's very important. So I stayed in Casa Valentina, and then I got out last year in October. And from then on, I've been living in my own apartment, saving money. And now I'm about to graduate with my AA degree in biotechnology. And, all this came from being an Educate Tomorrow student, Miami-Dade College, and a Casa Valentina resident. And I want to just, thank them for that. And also, I'm working with the Homie Collective to find resources and solutions to end youth homelessness in Miami-Dade County. Thank you.
Thank you, Deandra. That's awesome. And just for some context, Casa Valentina is a partner of ours. They're a nonprofit in Miami-Dade County that provides transitional housing for young adults and affordable transitional housing for young adults with life skills and wraparound services. They're frequently on these calls, and we appreciate their work. I also wanted to mention, Roxana had mentioned Project Upstart. Project Upstart is our McKinney-Vento Act homeless program for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. So Project Upstart may not sound familiar, but all of your county public schools around the state have a similar McKinney-Vento Act program. Adonis, are you here? Are you on?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We'd just love to hear your experience accessing the tuition exemption at FAU and anything about you that you would like to share.
Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Donis. I'm a sophomore in FAU. I just turned 21 last week. Accessing the waiver, to be honest, I didn't have no knowledge whatsoever. I didn't even know it was a thing. I was just mainly afraid that this might backfire my mom at that time. While I was in high school, I never saw it as like, okay, like I guess like this is happening to me. Like nobody else is, experiencing these type of things, and it could always be worse. And that mindset stuck with me to even today, and I'm seeing the consequences of not, taking the time for that. But while I was in high school, if it wasn't for the fact that I had my counselor just telling us do AVC, because personally, from where I'm coming from, I never saw myself graduating. Most of my peers either ended up in jail or being dead. And while I was in school, I will always be harassed by security and police because I will be coming to school late. Even though I had good grades, I would still get harassed just for coming to school late, and nobody will ask like, okay, what is going on? My bad, I just lost my train of thought. Assessing this, it has gave me hope to see myself actually graduating college, because I never saw myself making it to college. I never even saw myself making it to 21. And my bad, I'm not trying to get emotional. Yeah, it's a big help, but at the same time, I know that if things go south, like where else can I go? You get me? Like during the summer, I was couch surfing. I have an emotional support animal, and there was no shelters, like none of that. So yeah, it hurts. And even though it's a big help, it's still that finding a way to know if you're gonna have enough money for housing for the semester, if you're gonna be in a good mental state of mind to balance personal life, work, school, and yeah.
Well, Adonis, thank you so much for sharing, and yeah, this is very, very, very powerful insights, and just the reality of how complex life is, and how we all need a supportive network in order to thrive. So I've known you for several years, and I've seen your growth, and I believe in your ability to continue to grow, and I look forward to seeing that and to supporting you in that. I think you're all up. Are you all a part of AOK as well? Because AOK is a partner of Positive Pathways. Adana,
Yes,
Deandra, and Roxana as well.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So does anyone have any questions for our panelists here? Thank you all so much for being here today.
Right, real quick, this is Calvin. I just have to say something that these thank you all for saying and speaking today, because I think the biggest growth for us as professionals that are working our heart out and working very hard to assist young people like you is you remind us through your lived experience, the stories, and I think that's part of what keeps us going. And when I hear and have this opportunity to sit down and I listen to your lived experiences, that's what continues to tell me suggests to me that yes, we're on the right path in trying to solve some of these issues, either whether it's at a local, state, or a national level. So one, I really am thrilled that you were able to come and tell those stories, tell your story. And I want to thank you all for doing that, because I know it must not have been easy, but you have, just so that you know that it's that effort is what really, I think, makes a big difference for professionals like myself in continuing what we're trying to do to solve pretty much all similar issues that young people like yourself would go through. So I just want to thank you for showcasing and showing us what you did today. So thank you very much for that.
Brett, this is Gianfranco Patuzzo, Geo Housing Services with Citrus in South Florida. If I may go ahead and just piggyback on calling what we were just saying, Adonis, Deandra, Roxana, it's a pleasure working with you, part of the homie, and, it's really, truly a pleasure working alongside you. Sometimes you guys say thank you to us so much, for helping you, and, realistically speaking, you're helping us grow. Us as professionals, sometimes, like what Brett said, sometimes we're not informed, or sometimes there's a lot of different departments or different things, and you guys are really showing us some things sometimes we wouldn't be able to know without you guys. So truly appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
I also think it's so important to lift these stories up, because it is so rare. Like there are only 3 states in the country that have any form of a homeless tuition exemption. California offers homeless tuition exemptions for community colleges only. Maryland offers it up until the age of 25, and then it goes away. And then there's Florida. All other states do not have any type of support for homeless students trying to access higher ed. So what we're doing in Florida is unique, or close to unique. And what Adonis, Roxana, and Deandra are doing just proves that, like, this investment can be life-changing. And I think that's an important part of the work we're doing here at Positive Pathways. Please, Adonis, go ahead.
Something that I wanted to add was the first time I went to a shelter. I was underage and I got placed with adults. And from someone that was molested as a child, that was a big trigger, and I didn't feel safe in a shelter. But I'm not sure if that was just a shelter that I went to, or if that's happening on other shelters as well.
That is also a really good point. Several years ago in Miami, there were not a lot of shelters that had youth-friendly accommodations, and it was really the work of the YVAC and the Homie Collective to start to encourage shelters in Miami to have youth-friendly accommodations, just because of that. So good. Extremely important, thoughtful point there, Adonis, that being informed is incredibly important, and having reasonable accommodations is incredibly important for young people. Philip, I know you have some insights regarding FIU and homeless verification process, if you would like to share anything.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So a lot of the challenges the students mentioned, obviously our team has faced here at FIU over the years, especially as it relates to sort of back and forth with accepting the local school systems certifications, understanding that the McKinney-Vento Act defines homelessness a tad differently than the Florida Board of Governors, or even the Senate legislation that outlines how universities apply the homeless waiver. Simply, that does well, I don't want to say it excludes, but it does not include situations like couch surfing, which one of the students mentioned. And being transparent, depending on the year, depending on the particular, attorney advising our office, sometimes the recommendations that we're getting from our general counsel's office with regard to how black and white and or how gray we need to be in interpreting what homelessness is has been a challenge. One of the solutions that our Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs has gratefully extended to us is as not to compromise, I suppose, the definition of homelessness as the Board of Governors defines it. She has gotten the provost to agree to utilize his authority, which all provosts in the state university system have, to extend tuition waivers to any student that they feel needs one. We've created essentially I'm looking on my list, what are we calling it? A discretionary waiver that we will simply use to categorize and certify any of the students coming directly out of the public school systems who can't be verified through some of our other traditional sources. We use that waiver in exchange for the homeless waiver to still waive their tuition and give them access to the same support services that our other homeless students have access to. I can also say that, and I know that the approach to verifying homelessness, the network that exists of community agencies that help with this process are different in different parts of the state. And our Vice President for Student Affairs has agreed to add this discussion and issue of homeless verification to the Council for Student Affairs agenda at the next Board of Governors meeting, so that each of the university VPs of Student Affairs at least can initiate conversations about how the state might start to standardize and maybe give a little more structure and direction to making sure that all of the universities are applying the waiver consistently, and also to build the network of agencies that can certify homelessness across the state and not leave it to each individual campus. For instance, we're here in Miami, but we have students from Orlando and Tampa and such. And currently it's up to us to reach out and find agencies in those communities, though we're not familiar with those communities on our own. So if the state system can help to create that network and make it available to all of the universities, we at least think that is one way to start to chip away at some of the challenges we faced.
Well, thank you so much, Philip. I think this conversation will continue and needs to continue. We are at the end of our time, but I would just want to give one, it really will be us and some other groups around the state that if change will happen, it will happen. It will need to happen because of us and some other key players, the state university system, the college and university leaders, and other advocates. So we are, if we want change to happen, we need to act and act in a unified way. I encourage everyone to look at the recommendations, and I'll try and find them and send them, or maybe Roxana or Deandra or Adonis, you have those, but you made some very thoughtful policy recommendations around providing better access to tuition exemptions in the state of Florida. I would love to share that with this group. One last thing is, several years ago, there was a state senator in the Florida Senate that proposed to eliminate the homeless tuition exemption language from statute. And I heard about it. And so I called his Senate office and I got a hold of one of his aides and I said, why would he propose to eliminate this language? And she just said, well, he just can't fathom how someone would be able to focus on higher education if they're experiencing homelessness. And so I just laid out all of the examples of all the students that were succeeding and have succeeded because they have utilized this exemption. And that was all it took for him to drop that and not oppose or not propose to eliminate the homeless exemption. But that's another reason why we exist. Sometimes someone can just decide to change something. And we need to be vigilant and informed that, these policies can progress or they can take steps back. And that's why we need to be here.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I definitely want to thank Brett McNaught for facilitating the presentation. And of course, Adonis, Roxana, and Deandra, and Philip for adding such valuable information. As I mentioned earlier, we do have our 2:30 onboarding. So for any of you who are interested in hearing more about the Positive Pathways Network, I invite you to stay on. We take a 2 or 3 minute break to let folks sign off, or let the ones who are on and going to stay on get a little bit of water